My guest today is Bill Collage, a prominent screenwriter in for Hollywood, who has lived in Sag Harbor for many, many years, and who writes these wonderful films that I happen to have seen the preview to Accepted, which I really liked. It was very sort of dated from that era, like, sort of real science, that kind of thing. But it has a wonderful comedy quality to it. How did you come into decide to become a screenwriter? Were you doing anything else before that? Or were you raised?
No, I grew up in a place out of Erie, Pennsylvania, and then Pittsburgh, and went to the University of Michigan. And when I came to New York, originally I lived in the city and never really clicked with the city. There wasn't enough space. But so I was one of those guys sitting around in a really small apartment in the early 90s, trying to figure out how to sell movies, And I got a break in 95 writing a touch of the movie called Ransom. Ron Howard gave me a break. And at that point, I partnered up with somebody whose name is Adam Cooper, and he went to Los Angeles to write, and I ended up going to Sag Harbor to write, and we really began kind of a bi-coastal writing partnership until 2018. So it was primarily just a life choice to kind of move out here and do something. I was lucky enough that I could work in a profession where I could work from home, because I like working from home out here. It's really nice. Ironically though, Dan, right now I'm zooming from the top of the Sag Harbor Cinema, which I know you've been to. My office is here now on top of it. So I'm a guy who writes movies on top of a movie theater, which has been a nice change too.
Makes perfect sense also.
Yeah.
Just let it filter into the screen below.
Yeah, and I get to wander down and see free screenings from time to time. So it's kind of nice.
What do you like about Sag Harbor that decided that you wanted to be out here rather than back in New York or out west? Did you spend any time out west?
Yeah, I never lived out there. I back when people flew a lot for work, I would fly out there several times a year and go to meetings or whatever. Maybe there was a project that was being shot there or something, but I never lived there. I liked Sag Harbor always because it reminded me a little of outside of Erie, Pennsylvania. There was farmlands, there was the lake, there was water and kind of farm areas. And it was just, it's a small town. It's a quintessential small town. It's one street. Sometimes when I tell people there's like 1,400 people that live here, they don't even believe it, but it seemed manageable for my brain. I've been prone to things like anxiety for my whole life. And this just seemed like a really, for the most part, until summer comes, calm place. Summer is a little different, I guess, right?
What gave you the idea that you would like to write screenplays when you were growing up?
Sure. I fell in love with the movies really early, by going to the movie theaters with my mom and dad. And an early important movie to me was Star Wars, which is not the most original answer, but it happened to a lot of us, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, and like that, and this early Steven Spielberg stuff from Jaws right through the '80s catalog, just lit a fire in me. And I from time to time I would use cameras or kind of fool around with the technical aspect of things. Obviously, never was interested in acting or anything like that. I don't have any skills, but I always enjoyed and had the patience, I guess, for sitting in front of the computer and just kind of working on stories. And, I'm like, when you graduate college and stuff, like there's no job posting at the job center. It's like, hey, come be a screenwriter, it took a little time to get into it, but I stuck with it and it worked out.
What are you working on right now? That was something you mentioned at the start of this interview.
Yeah. We just finished shooting a movie called Emancipation, which is Will Smith. It's his next movie, and it's directed by Antoine Fuqua, who did Training Day and The Magnificent Seven. And it's a mostly true story set in the Civil War time about an enslaved man named Peter. He's a very, very famous photograph of him, the gentleman with like all the scars on his back. It was the very first viral photo. And someone had brought the picture to my attention. And if you Google it, it's on Wikipedia as Gordon Slave. And despite the fact that this guy's name was Peter and there's evidence that shows where he was and that was his name, kind of infuriated me that he's listed wrong, on Wikipedia. Yeah. And so I ended up kind of working for a long time to write that movie. And it ended up, I got to Will and Antoine, and they teamed up, and we've been down in New Orleans, outside of New Orleans, Louisiana, to shoot the movie all year. We were there really from the beginning of June and just finished in December because of COVID and the hurricane. We kept getting shut down. But
I think I've seen commercials for it, or short parts to it.
Not yet, probably. I mean, we just finished. Will, he has King Richard out right now, which he just got the Golden Globe for the other night. But I think, at some point this year, you'll be seeing some pretty interesting stuff. It's a movie unlike a lot of other movies. It's a pretty intense piece.
What are some of the other movies that people might be aware of that you screen wrote?
I guess one of the biggest was Exodus, which Ridley Scott directed. Christian Bale was in that. Also, this other movie I did with Michael Fassbender called Assassin's Creed. And then Tower Heist was kind of a big one. That was Ben Stiller and Eddie Murphy. And then, Accepted back in the day. There was a period of time when Adam Cooper and I were writing kind of like comedies. We did some work on Get Smart with Carell. We did Accepted. We did an Olsen twin movie, if you can believe it. But then we shifted in 2008 and did serious stuff. And really got to do some neat stuff too. Like, one of those, the movie's called The Transporter, where the guy drives the car. We got to do one of those movies, and we worked with like Luc Besson, and we've worked with Martin Scorsese. It was really been a fun ride over the years. And
what do you like about when you here in Sag Harbor? How do you spend your day? Do you write every day in the morning, and then go about your day? Or that's what I used to do.
Totally. I frame it by taking my little kid to school. My oldest kid went K through 12 here, and he's now in college. But beginning the day with a little family time, school drop off. And then I come to the office here at cinema now and work. I used to work from home before this building was. And then, school pickup kind of gives you a nice break in the action, around 2:30 or 3 o'clock. And then a lot of times phone calls start. The problem with living on the East Coast when you work with Los Angeles based people is they tend to start to call you around 4 and 5 o'clock, so that begins a new phase of my day.
Yeah. And then you have to be with it until 9 at night.
Or so, right.
You mentioned it before we started that you had met Scoop Wasserstein, who's a stepson of mine.
Yeah.
Who's also entered now, and he's much younger than you, into producing movies.
That's right. We were set up on a general Zoom with each other through some people we knew in common, and it was pretty far into the conversation that we wanted to connect the dots about you. So that was really fun to have that small world.
He has a house here, and he has a house out in LA. So he moves back and forth. He's going to be here for the next few months, which is kind of nice.
You should come by the cinema with him, because you guys would both really love it here. I know you've been here a bunch.
I didn't know there were offices to rent in the cinema, or you just go.
There's not really. I mean, the top right next to the bar, the top office here was supposed to be the VR room, virtual reality room, and COVID prevented us from opening for over a year, so the room sat dormant. And I figured I'm on the executive board, and I figured, why don't I just rent it and give the cinema some sort of income? So I became kind of like almost like a writer in residence, because who knows when the VR room is going to be functional again. I mean, we're having enough trouble like running the movie theater, let alone
And
virtual reality.
all during that time, there's no movie at downstairs.
Yeah, it was a long time when there was no movies. We finally opened the doors in Memorial Day, and it's been a combination of some weeks struggling and then some weeks really finding our footing and hitting a home run with this place. It's amazing. No one knew if people were going to go to the movies again, and our audiences for a lot of this have come back pretty heavily, which is amazing.
Well, it's also the new air circulation system. I think people trust it. I know I did. We went there for a film, and the popcorn is from Billy Joel.
Billy Joel donated the popcorn stand.
Yeah,
it's the coolest thing ever.
Playing the park every day, making that popcorn.
But what's amazing about the cinema is when people walk in, it's the first thing people see on the right, the wall of donors. It goes from, obviously Steven Spielberg and Scott Stuber, the folks at Netflix, Billy, a lot of super high net worth people who donated a lot of money, but it goes all the way down to literally kids in the local community who did bake sales and, provided things in kind. And it's I like to say it's like the only thing in the Hamptons that everybody agrees upon. It's like this building nobody hates it. It's like the one place nobody hates.
How do you like the new park, the Steinbeck Park?
I like it. I can't show you, but out my office there's a deck, and it then looks over Steinbeck Park out towards the water. And I think it's nice. It's a nice gateway to the town. What's your opinion?
Oh, I love it. In fact, I was around when it was kind of discovered. Those parcels in there had been owned by a guy named Harry Diner, who founded the New York Golf Club. He was a prominent dentist, actually, in New York. And he was partners with these little patches of land with different people. So they tried to assemble this parcel to do something of any kind. This was even long before there was any thought of it becoming a park. They had to deal with so many different voices, they never could get it straight.
There's a lot of that, and the naming of it and the design of it. I mean, the same thing seems to be going on now with some other cultural institutions around town. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to just throw up a building in Sag Harbor, is it?
No, but there was that property for that long period of time was just woods and thicket. And I sometimes went in there just to see what was there. And then one day someone said, did you ever go under the bridge and around that way?
Right.
And I said, wow, that is amazing. And then they put it all together and look at it now. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think I wonder what you thought about this. I think the Bay Street kind of got it in their heads that they were so enthusiastic about putting a building down there by the post office that would back up on the park, but they went ahead really without notifying the town of what they were wanting to do. And they had it pretty far down the road, including an architectural design, before somebody said, hey, wait a minute, isn't that sort of public land that they ought to be involving the town, the village trustees? And so it all came together, but still in process.
Yeah, I'm excited for that to get done. I think Bay Street has been one of the 25 years I've lived here, one of the more important things in Sag Harbor. I mean, it for many years was like the economic engine of the town in a lot of ways, bringing in, I think they hold like 250-ish people.
Yeah.
And, those people then walked around, spent money, went to dinner. And I think whatever the politics of that are, the community outreach, I mean, I definitely think it should stay. And I can't wait for it to get done, because it's been kind of a couple of years that they've had to do kind of this remote stuff with COVID and alternative stages. And, having a permanent home again in Sag Harbor would be great for the town anyway.
It will be. And it opened the eyes of the town to the need for a waterfront plan from one end of it to the other, which is even better. So it's just a remarkable little town. It's
Yeah.
almost impossible to walk down Main Street without 4 or 5 people saying hello to you because
Well, everybody knows you, first of all. How do you walk anywhere? I mean,
it's probably true.
everybody knows you.
But let me think. Are you working on anything else that now that this particular project, Emancipation, is finished up?
Yeah, I've been working on something I'm really excited about with a director named Mark Forster, who's done a lot of great movies. It's the Greenpeace movie, The Origins of Greenpeace, which is kind of this enormous topic in the book written by Rex Weiler, about that thick. But
Yeah.
The way we're going to do the movie is really just their very first whaling mission, where this very, very eclectic of long-haired guys in their 20s literally rented a boat and sailed into the Pacific Ocean, not knowing where they're going, in order to confront the Soviet whaling fleet and put themselves in zodiacs between the harpoon guns and the whales. So as much as it's an action adventure thriller on the high seas, there's also like a little bit of an element of like a movie like Almost Famous, or a little bit of like, comedy in quotation marks, because the audacity of these guys in 1975 to do this was crazy. It's just crazy. So it's a really cool movie, and I'm really eager for it to hopefully shoot at the end of this year. The script is done. I just actually finished it right before Christmas.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What do you like best to do in the afternoons in Sag Harbor? Do you have any particular places you like to go?
It's truly have gotten into the rhythm here where once the movies here start at 3:00. So if there's something I haven't seen, I usually watch it over the course of 2 days. I'll poke my head in for the first 60 minutes, and then I'll go back the next day, like at 4:00, and watch the second half of the movie.
Yeah,
it's a great way to take a break and get my homework done at the same time, kind of.
What did you do for the 5 years that the theater was closed?
I know there's a lot of time at the American Hotel, Dan.
Yeah, well, especially for a guy who loves the movies.
There was no, but we're really lucky that in Sag Harbor, I think more so than some of the other towns, at least for me, somewhere around 5 or 6 o'clock, if you pop into one of the little restaurants or places to go here, you always see someone So, in the afternoons you could work, and then, there's a 95% chance if you poke into one of the places that's open, you can have a conversation with someone who's your friend. So that's always been a super thing about this town to me. You don't have to go searching high and low for your friends.
Why they call it the Unhamptons.
Yeah. At least it used to be. Now it's getting pretty fancy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show. It's 20 minutes, as you know,
Okay.
And I believe the time is up. And I'm talking to Bill Collage, who a screenwriter for many, many years in Hollywood, who lives here. And thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Good to see you. And I'll see you over here.
Oh, you will. You will. Bye.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Do the Artist Writers game sometime.
I got to get back to it.
Yes, you do.
Oh.
Bye.
Okay, see you guys.